In the annals of Nigerian criminal history, few names resonate as strongly as Lawrence Anini. Known as the Law, or Ovbigbo Anini would become Nigeria's most notorious robber in the 1980s. But to understand the criminal, we must first understand the man and the boy he once was. Lawrence Anini was born in 1960, the same year Nigeria gained its independence from British colonial rule. While the nation celebrated its newfound freedom, Anini's early years were far from jubilant. He entered a world of stark contrasts, where the gap between rich and poor yawned wide, especially in his hometown of Benin City. Benin City, with its rich history dating back to the ancient Benin Empire, was a place of both opportunity and struggle. For young Lawrence, it was predominantly the latter. Born into poverty, Anini's childhood was marked by hardship and limited prospects. The lack of economic opportunities for many in the newly independent Nigeria meant that families like Anini's often struggled to make ends meet. Education, often seen as a ladder out of poverty, was a luxury Anini couldn't afford. He dropped out of school at a young age, forced by circumstances to fend for himself on the unforgiving streets of Benin City. This early exit from formal education would have profound implications on his future path, closing doors to legitimate opportunities and pushing him towards the fringes of society. In his teenage years, Anini found work as a taxi driver. Navigating the bustling streets of Benin City, he witnessed firsthand the stark inequality that plagued Nigerian society. The contrast between the lives of his wealthy passengers and his own meager existence likely fueled a growing sense of resentment and ambition. It was during this time as a taxi driver that Anini began to brush against the underworld of Benin City. The nature of his work brought him into contact with various elements of society, including those involved in petty crime and local gangs. For a young man with limited options and growing ambition, the allure of easy money proved hard to resist. Anini's transition from a struggling taxi driver to a criminal was not instant, but rather a gradual descent. It likely began with small indiscretions, perhaps turning a blind eye to suspicious passengers or acting as an unwitting getaway driver. Over time, these small steps into criminality would have emboldened him, each successful venture pushing him further down a dark path. The Nigeria of the 1970s and early 1980s was a nation in flux. The oil boom had created a new class of wealthy elites, while much of the population remained mired in poverty. Corruption was rampant, eroding faith in public institutions and creating an environment where crime could flourish. For someone like Anini, with his background of poverty and lack of formal education, the legitimate paths to success seemed increasingly narrow. It's crucial to note that while these societal factors provide context for Anini's choices, they do not excuse them. Many individuals faced similar hardships without turning to a life of crime. However, understanding the environment that shaped Anini helps us comprehend how a boy from the streets of Benin City could transform into Nigeria's most feared robber. As we delve deeper into the Anini saga in future episodes, we'll explore how this background set the stage for his rise to infamy. We'll examine the criminal network he built, the notorious robberies he orchestrated, and the complex relationship he developed with corrupt elements of the police force. The story of Lawrence Anini is more than just a true crime tale. It's a reflection of a specific time and place in Nigerian history, a cautionary tale of how societal inequalities and lack of opportunities can push individuals towards destructive paths. As we continue to unravel the Anini chronicles, we'll grapple with these broader themes, seeking to understand not just the man, but the world that made him. In our next episode, we'll explore Anini's rise to power and the beginnings of his criminal empire. Join us as we continue to uncover the dark and compelling story of the man they called the Law.